Well, how's that for a dump? What a mess. I think it's time to have a clear up and maybe some friends around for Sunday lunch. So my studio, as is often the way with flower farmers and lots of people who work in an artisan manner from home, is my workspace, but it's also a dumping ground for everyone to put their bicycles and a general untidy mess. And one great way to tidy it up is to have people around for lunch. We don't have a dining room, so this becomes the dining room when we have people for lunch. So it's a really miserable day at the end of November, and I thought you might like to come along with me as I transform this place. It's 8 o'clock in the morning and we have people come to lunch. I've not cooked anything and I've got to start by ironing the tablecloths. But let's transform this gloomy, miserable place and have a cheerful Sunday lunch. The floristry part of this is I thought I'd do something really, really simple. I have got coming up this week a Christmas tablescape workshop online, which you can book through the website. And I also have a winter wedding planning workshop, both of which are available to book online. Sometimes people make comments here and they say, we wish you would show the real detail of the floristry as you go along. They want to see all that stuff. And I will admit, I'm here to make a living. So I give as much free content as I can because I'm really keen that people should learn lots of new things. But anything that I teach in my workshops and my demos, I keep back really consciously because otherwise it's not fair on the people who order to buy places on the workshops and the demos, is it? So there you go. But I've got a lovely simple idea for putting some gorgeous things on the tables to make it look pretty, which is not an idea that I'm sharing in my tablescape demo or in my winter wedding chat. Right, enough of this. Let's get on. I better go and iron those tablecloths. I strategize everything for speed, and by putting out the right number of napkins with the tablecloths, I will know when it comes to laying the tables that I've got enough places. We're 15 for lunch, 15 napkins. And I know how much time I've got. So it's 8:30 now. I've ironed the tablecloths. I need to get this room looking nice by 10 because then it's going to take me 4 hours to cook the lunch. Simple. I've got an hour and a half. Better get going. Right, it's all coming together. The Christmas lights have been hung up to make it look festive, although it is not Christmas, so they'll come down again and go on Christmas tree later. Top tip, if you have a dark space, so I brought the lamps in from everywhere else because this is a workspace, so we have boring work lighting, so I've got to sort of warm it up a bit. So I've brought lamps in, but I've also put them next to windows so that when they're lit and it's dark later on, it's winter, so it'll be dark at 4 o'clock, and they will bounce light back into the room. And it's always worth just checking that if you have lampshades, check that the join of the lampshade doesn't show. It's just a little bit of detail. Same with the other one. And then I'm beginning to put things on the table. Another top tip, if you've got a higgledy-piggledy collection of tables like we have, this is not a dining room, this is a workspace. When you put the tablecloths on, I've put a wipe down tablecloth underneath because I haven't had time to scrub the tables. And if I had scrubbed the tables, they wouldn't be dry enough to put the cloths on. But also make sure that the line down the middle of the ironed cloths all join up, so they all go down the middle together. And then it's tidy, although the tables are untidy because there are 3 tables here that don't match. The untidiness is helped by the fact that the line of where they've been ironed goes all the way straight down the middle. And if you're thinking I'm still in my pajamas, you're right. But coming along now, if you've been out cutting material to put on your table and it's wet, it's November, So everything, even despite the weather, I mean, it's also wet weather, but if you're cutting material and it's a bit wet, give it a good shake, get the worst off, because if I put wet material on tablecloths, it's just going to make the tablecloths wet and won't look nice. But you can get a cloth. So give them a shake off. But also, you can literally, gently take the water off a bit, just enough so that it's not going to make a mess of your table, by literally using a cloth. Top tip, because not all of us have time to cut the day before, because we might have had other things on. It happens. Yes, I know, later. So I'm literally tucking the foliage underneath each other. You can't see a thing, I realise. If I pull the chairs out, you can. Tucking the foliage underneath each other so that they reach along the table. It's really, really simple. And I'm going to carry on till I'm done, and then I'll show you. And it's really, really very attractive, effective. I haven't tied anything. It doesn't have to be in water. I haven't prepped in advance. I've literally tucked individual little bits of foliage down the table. What happens sometimes when people want garlands down tables, they can be very fat and there's little room, especially if it's a wedding or an event, where often the table, you know, space is at a premium, so tables are narrower. These are my work tables, so they're quite big and heavy. But normally, if you were having a marquee with 160 people, your table might be no wider than, it might be 6 or 8 inches narrower than this. And so don't have too fat a garland, because there's no room for anything else. You need room for the candles, for the salt and pepper, for the bottles of water and wine, baskets of bread and all of that stuff. However, we could do with some colour here, so let's add colour. At this time of year, dried flowers really come into their own. So let's have some statice and see how we go. It's lovely. I love this gorgeous colour. Very, very pretty. Just a little bit of colour on the tables in amongst the green. And as the light warms up, what will happen is it'll get dark outside and the candles will be lit and the colour of the satis will sort of glow. Annoyingly, in the film, it looks flatter. The colour looks less vibrant than it does in real life, which is very irritating. There we go. And then, because they're really spangly and jangly and very pretty, I have added clementines down the table for pudding, for people to eat, but also they're a lovely colour in amongst everything. It's all coming together. So this part doesn't look very exciting, but this is where the food will go, and obviously the food's not cooked yet. Top tip, if you're having a party like this, is to light all the candles in advance. One, because it looks pretty and you can take a before picture like this. But also, sometimes if you've got candles that have been sitting around like I have, and they're quite old, then it's worth checking that they'll still light. And if you've got new candles, sometimes they're a bit fiddly to light. And it's worth lighting them all, blowing them out, and then they're ready to light for the party. I could have decanted the wine, and that would have made more sparkle on the table, but I'm being lazy. And actually, I quite like the contrast between the pink jugs, the red and yellow wine bottle labels. It's not especially fancy wine, but it's all about what it looks like, really, isn't it? I've done place names, because otherwise you end up with husbands and wives sitting next to each other. While they may love each other dearly, they can do that at home. And that, as they say, is that. The table where I normally am demonstrating work has become the bar. All the buckets and things have been put to one side. And
I have even got dressed. It's only 1 o'clock. The lunch is in the oven, ready to go. I think having a little, very light party on a Sunday, even if you are in your workspace, and let's face it, underneath the tables are boxes, and I have moved the dahlia tubers out for the day because it's going to be quite warm with the fire lit, but it is still very much my workspace here, as you can see. But anyway, happy days. So, have some fun with bits of foliage just laid on the table. It's very, very pretty. You can always use fruit as an extra for colour at this time of year. Small candles littered down the table will make lovely light. I love candles at lunchtime. There's something, it means that you sort of don't notice as the light fades outside. You get the candlelight all through the day, and it's really very, very attractive. So thank you very much for watching. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Press the bell icon and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks I give you along the way are useful, you can always buy me a coffee. The link for coffee buying is in the blurb to all my clips. Have a lovely Sunday afternoon. And maybe I'll see you at a couple of this week's upcoming workshops. See you soon.